On this edition of the Watchmen Brief, we tackle a tough question. As a Bible believer, what are you supposed to do when it comes to voting? Where do you get information from? How do you know what candidates stand for? Our guest today and her amazing organization help to answer all of those questions. Debbie Wuthnow of iVoter Guide joins us next on the Watchmen Brief. Straight ahead. And welcome to another edition of the Watchmen Brief. My name is R.C. Williams. Juliana Ormond is on assignment this week, but we are excited to talk more about biblical responsibilities for voters and resources that are available to you to make those right decisions. So joining us now on the Watchmen Brief, Debbie Wuthnow of iVoter Guide. Debbie, welcome to the Watchmen Brief.
It's an honor to be here, R.C.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Debbie, let's get into it. Can you give folks some background on iVoter Guide as a platform, a bit of history, what you guys do, why this is helpful to believers who are looking to make choices?
Yeah, well, a little bit of the history of iVoterGuide.com. So it's been around in Texas since 2008. And I describe it as a tapestry woven by God. It was not my idea. It was not something I created. But there was a gentleman who ran the actual Family Policy Council in Texas. So worked with the legislature, had been lobbying. I mean, knew those people in the Capitol. But he had that realization, that light bulb moment, and said, you know what? I've never voted an intelligent ballot from the top of the ticket to the bottom of the ticket, but I know what to look for. So he started gathering research in his county, which just happened to be Dallas County. He gathered campaign finance data on every candidate from top of the ticket to justice of the peace, and got their scorecards if they'd ever held office. He gathered endorsements. He sent every candidate a questionnaire. I mean, he was filling this binder with information. And then he realized that most people won't read that much information. So he gathered some friends around his conference table. He was very well connected, so you would probably recognize some of the names, gave them each a copy of the binder, and they graded every candidate. They then printed it and passed it out in churches. So this was before iVoter Guide began. But then on a parallel thread in that tapestry was a retired programmer. He'd worked for IBM, but had retired. He literally had served on his local school board, even though his kids went to private Christian school. And he had the idea, he said God gave it, of how to make a voter guide on the internet. But he didn't know how to do a voter guide. So God caused those two people to intersect. Jim called Richard and said, I want to do a voter guide in the internet. And Richard held up that 4-inch binder of paper and said, you mean you can put this on the internet? Jim said, yes. So they started, Jim would ask him what to do, where to look, what to find. And so iVoter Guide went live for the very first time in Texas in the 5 largest counties. And they covered, again, top of the ticket to the bottom. And with all that research and the evaluations, they did the same thing in the 2008 election, or 2008 and 2010 elections. And then they said, you know what, Texas is doing okay, but the rest of the nation needs help. And at that point, iVoter Guide went nationwide, covering federal races in all 50 states. And then in a handful of states, started at about 6, where we had, real good relationships with local organizations. We covered the statewide and the state legislative races. Every cycle, we kind of continued to add more, advanced to 2024, and we covered federal races in all 50. We covered statewide races in 36 states and state legislative races in 32 states. And the mission's always been the same. Christian voters, faith-based voters need information about the candidates on their ballot. Nobody really has the inclination or the time to do that digging. So God created this tool for Christian voters, organizations that share our values of faith and limited government. And so it's a tool for voters to go to before they vote to see what the candidates believe, what they stand, what they've done, not just what they say they're going to do. So that's what our team does, is it's our ministry to educate people and equip them to vote wisely.
Thanks again for being with us on the Watchmen Brief. Thinking about things you can do to support Watchmen action. Gold back, gold back, gold back. The gold back notes and the team at Goldback have turned gold into money. They are huge supporters of Watchmen action, and you can help them to support us more by getting your gold back. These are the Florida versions, right? Oklahoma launches on August 20th. Here's what we need you to do. We need you to go to thegoldbackstore.com. That's thegoldbackstore.com. Pick up some goldbacks, and all of our proceeds from those sales actually go to support Watchmen Action. So here's the deal. Not only do you get to support Watchmen Action as a ministry, but you get gold in the process of doing that. We just need you to go to thegoldbackstore.com. That's thegoldbackstore.com. Pick up some goldback, support Watchmen Action, and make sure that you not only hedge against issues in the future, but you help your community by turning gold into money and using it each and every day. That's thegoldbackstore.com. Do it now. Debbie, so it's amazing to me because, as you can imagine, Juliana and I get this question on a regular basis. Who should I vote for? What should I do? We're obviously involved in our community in doing that. And it is interesting to me that we get those questions and then we work to answer them as best we can, right? You guys obviously have a comprehensive way to address these things, which is wonderful. What's interesting to me, though, is that once it sinks in that they actually have to do something, and this isn't a surface level question, a number of them will take a step back and say, well, yeah, I believe in my values, but voting my values, politics and religion aren't supposed to necessarily mix. Now, Juliana and I would disagree. Debbie, we believe that part of the challenge that we have today, and we talk about this in our ministry, is that we've ceded ground in the culture. Mm-hmm. And therefore, the culture is dictating the terms. If you can answer that, would you agree with that? And then I think the secondary to that is, with such a great tool like iVoterGuide, how can people help to share this message or help to educate people who ask those questions?
Well, RC, we get the same question. I've always had that question. Who do you go to? And a lot of us, if we're lucky or fortunate, or God has given us friends that we know who to go to. Your friends go to you. I have friends who come to me. I have somebody who I go to for my local races. And I say, James, who do I vote for? iVoterGuide seeks to be that trusted friend for voters across the nation that they go to first, because as a Christian ministry, we understand that voting is a stewardship responsibility. It's part of being salt and light. I strongly disagree with that statement that religion and politics should not mix. The founding fathers said, this type of government is really only for a religious and a moral people. If the world around us looks dark and maybe not Christian-like, maybe it's because the Christians aren't participating and we're not letting our light shine. So I strongly encourage people to participate in all levels of government. At a minimum, you need to vote and you need to know who you're voting for. And I would challenge you to vote in every election, not just in the general election every 2 or 4 years, because that's how we'll make the country look like this. But we still need a tool to identify those candidates who share our values, because we've seen that the media doesn't always portray it accurately. Candidates will sometimes say one thing and do something different. So we like to say we hold them accountable, not at the ballot box is where we hold them accountable. We're watching what they're doing. What are they voting on? What are the actions they're taking? Who have they given money to? Who have they received money from? Because that kind of can show their motivation or who's bought influence over them. So that's the research that iVoterGuide does, looking at the actions of the candidates to equip the church to be a good steward of that responsibility, to be salt and light, and to be civically engaged.
Debbie, what you just said there last, I think, is so important. More and more now, every day, Father is revealing to us where people's allegiances are and who's pushing a particular agenda. One of the other questions we get is, or we'll get a statement from people saying, I can't believe so-and-so did such and such. And our response is, did you follow the money? Right? And they're like, no, how do I do that? And so we're kind of back to iVoterGuide. I want to come back to that in a second. What I would like to ask, and because this is another question that we get, is anybody that does these types of things or talks about this, they're so focused on like the top level races. So they'll deal with president. Obviously, 2024 was a presidential election year. 2025 is what we would call an off year election. My question to you, though, is with iVoterGuide, do you guys look down ballot? Let's say like judgeships or county races or even city races, because a lot of times, Debbie, we focus on the top level, not realizing that we can control a whole lot more at the local level, which will flow up to the top if we know who those people are. So does iVoterGuide help with that as well?
We do. We're voters, and we're parents and grandparents, and we understand the value of school board races and our local elections. So in 2021, we started covering school board races in select areas. We saw what was going on in Loudoun County. It's going on all over the place. And we started in Texas covering school board races in 2021. And a couple of little tidbits we learned: in half of the races in Texas, there was not even a conservative ranged candidate on the ballot. Showed there's a lack of good, faith, godly people running for office, or conservative people running for office. So we've tried to cover as many local races as we can. So we cover hundreds of school board races every year. We're really watching for those key races that I describe them as problem children, where we're seeing the library book issue, we're seeing the transgender bathroom issue, or girls and boys sports, those things that they make the news. There's a bunch of organizations that kind of pay attention to that. We also want to work with a local group that's hopefully vetting candidates and encouraging candidates to run, or will help us and get the word out about that we've got a tool for you to find your candidates. Because school board and municipal races, frequently, some states don't have a party name behind them. They run as nonpartisan. So as an average voter, we just don't know who to vote for unless you've done the digging and done the research, because they'll all say we're doing it for the children. But we know that they have an agenda that's behind the scenes that will impact them. So it's really, we're trying to dig not just for political philosophy on, economics and limited government. We would love to, we flavor that with a worldview. So we're trying to see, do they share the biblical values? Are their priorities the same as mine as a Christian voter? So that's what we're doing on those nonpartisan races, because so many people leave them blank because they don't know who to vote for. And it's really an opportunity for us to educate voters. We've started layering on top of that city council races in 2025. There's about a dozen states where we're covering some school board races, some in Kansas, some in Georgia, Colorado, Virginia for the election this year. And we're layering the city council and the mayoral race on top of that. We are covering the mayor's race in New York City because that is such a news story this year. You also talked about judges. So we cover judicial races at the top of the ticket. So when you have the state Supreme Court or the state Court of Criminal Appeals, that will be on the ballot, whether that's, where they run against a candidate and they run as a Republican and a Democrat, or whether it's a retention race at the state level. We have lawyers reading the rulings of those judges and giving you where they where they fall on the judicial spectrum, from activist to originalist or textualist. So we have judges, school boards, municipal. We also cover ballot measures when those are at the statewide level. In Florida, I'm sure you were aware of a couple big ones last year. And we do follow the money, because as you said, you are spot on. We look at who gives money to both sides of that ballot measure, because, you listen to the ads on TV and they can have some spin and slant to it. So we're looking at the money, we're looking who's endorsed it, so you can really know what's behind and vote intelligently on all of those things on your ballot.
Thanks for watching today's episode. So exciting. So many things going on with Sherlock. We do research and behavioral marketing. Exciting announcement. Our latest product, New Digital Proof, is on the way. So here's what I need you to do, because this is going to help your business in a very major way when it comes to how AI engines like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude all look for you. You're a small business. You want to win that battle. There's a way to do it. Here's what I need you to do right now. I need you to go to investinanswers.com. That's investinanswers.com. Fill out the form and let us know in the message line that you want to learn more about Sherlock's new digital proof for your business, and someone on the team will get a hold of you. Again, go to investinanswers.com. That's investinanswers.com. Go ahead and fill out the form. Get that information. We'll get you set up with new digital proof for your business. Debbie, it's so important, the judgeship thing. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people don't realize, and they look at even President Trump and how the federal judges and the appointments are going. People don't realize the level of impact that those decisions have until a ruling does not go favorably for us as believers, right? And they're like, well, what happened? How did that happen? That's insane. Well, who ended up with the judgeship that made that ruling, right? It's like if everything matters.
Everything matters.
Everything matters. And I think informing people, that's the biggest question that we get. And we're getting it this year because we have off-year races about judges. What do I do? Because they run nonpartisan here in the state of Florida, and it can be very confusing. They do work to blur that line. One other thing, and then I want to get some more of your thoughts on what's coming in 2025. much like Texas or even Virginia, the state of Florida, we had a number of state legislature seats where no Republican was put up to run. They basically just gave up the seat. And as a husband and wife team who are active in conservative grassroots politics here in the state, we were flipping out. We're like, is there no one that we can put forward, give them some resources so that we at least have someone in the fight that agrees with our values? I know that's not you can't delve into the question and say, here's all the things you do, but I do want to reiterate the importance of understanding how often that does happen and how us being informed, a lot of what you guys do, helps with that.
Well, and I don't remember the exact statistic, but I think it's in the 30% to maybe more of races are uncontested, meaning that nobody runs against them. And, a lot of that is downstream of gerrymandering of districts so that they strongly favor one party over the other. So nobody runs in, to oppose them, because it's pretty much the race is not determined in the primary, it's determined in the general. So there's one party that they're just going to win. That could be part of it. But even down at the city council and school board level, there are a whole bunch of uncontested races. And we're kind of leaving things, it's like leaving something on the table. We really need to get our names out there. I've been personally convicted that we need to encourage more godly people to run for office, but we also need to give them the tools to know how to do that. So a sneak peek that we are in the process of working on an introductory candidate training class that we'll be offering online. It won't be till the October timeframe, but it'll be just in time for candidate filing in some areas. So if God is kind of working on your heart that maybe you need to step up, we're going to have a tool available. If you're on the ivoterguide.com email list, we'll send you that information. We'll put it up on the website once registration is open. But, information is power, and knowing what you're getting into can equip and educate and motivate more people to step up and run, because it really is a need.
I love it when we get breaking news on the Watchmen Brief, Debbie. Thank you for dropping that nugget on the audience. And if you guys are looking at the scroll along the bottom, you can see you can go to ivoterguide.com to get that information and sign up. And we'll mention that again at the end. Debbie, before we do that, though, I did want to get your thoughts on some of the off-year races coming up in November this year. What are you seeing? What should people be on the lookout for right now?
Well, there are 2 states that have their state legislature on the ballot this year. You're probably aware. Everybody talks about Virginia, and that house is actually in play. I mean, the who controls that state legislature is up in the air. It was Democratic controlled for many years, and when Glenn Youngkin won, the House flipped at the same time. So it's been Republican controlled for the last cycle, which is 2 years, but they have a one cycle term limit on the governor. So Youngkin can only serve once. So the governor's race in Virginia is on the table. The control of their state legislature is on the table. New Jersey state legislature is also on the ballot. There's some ballot measures even this year in Texas and in Maine on voter integrity and whether citizens can vote or you need voter IDs. So those are important races. There's a lot of municipal and school board elections that are going on this year. And those are, even if we can't cover all of them, but I would encourage everybody to do your own research and to become educated. Find your friend that does that research and participate. There's a general trend in some of the elections we've seen this year, especially on the conservative front, that people turned out to vote for President Trump. And they feel like they did what they needed to do. Trump's going to solve all my problems. And that, while he's done some fabulous things, one man is not the solution. He is not Jesus. There's a lot of work that we need to do. All those executive orders need to be codified into state law, a city council law. I mean, there's just a lot of work that has to be done. We cannot get complacent. Now is the opportunity to go on offense and really make sure we keep the House in 2026. I mean, that's beyond this year, but that's what's on the horizon. Candidate filing starts the end of this year to get ready for the 2026 elections. And, you're hearing lots of news stories federally about control of the Congress, but you need to look at your state legislatures as well. So we're seeing a slightly downturned in the enthusiasm for turning out for elections because of that. So we need to kind of do what we can to wake people up and let them know that there's still a great need for participation, because we're blessed to have a representative government. But if we don't speak our voice, we're allowing the enemy to take control.
You know, Debbie, that last part is so important. We talk about that often when we're teaching and speaking, is that if you cede ground, the enemy will take it. And you've got to retake that territory, and you've got to be out front with a loud bullhorn saying, no, not anymore. And, you know, interesting thing happens when you do that. The enemy skirts and runs away because they're a coward. But you've got to step up, and you've got to do something. And I'll get off my soapbox. So, Debbie, how can people support the work that you're doing with iVoter Guide? Where can they get more information? Like, give us the rundown on that.
Well, first of all, you go to ivoterguide.com, and it's in that the bottom line. I would encourage you to sign up for our email list. We try to educate voters in between elections. So we write some really good content on how to be a good steward and how does government work? What does the Bible say about various political issues? And as you're on the website, click on the insights and articles and read some of the types of things that we send out. It's only once a week. So scroll down to the very bottom and sign up for our email list at ivoterguide.com. We are a ministry, so we are donor supported. And we, because of patriots who support what we do, ivoterguide.com is free for everybody who goes to the website to get, and it's a personalized voter guide, if I didn't say that. When you go to ivoterguide.com at an election time frame, you don't need to know, what your school district is or your House district or your congressional district. You just enter your voting address, and we do that work for you. But we do that for free because we are supported by donors. So if God so leads you to support us, there's a donate button on the website. And we also lean into volunteers. The evaluation that we do on candidates, we have a staff that does a lot of research, but we lean into volunteers to help us look at and read candidate profiles, to read candidates' websites and their social media, to really glean where their values stand. So you can take action, click on Take Action on the website and sign up to be a volunteer with iVoter Guide. We also have resources there, but we're just trying to be your one-stop shop for information regarding elections. So put ivoterguide.com in your bookmarks and check it out every time you vote.
Debbie Wuthnow, iVoter Guide, thank you so much for joining us on the Watchmen Brief.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for watching the Watchmen Brief. Listen, WatchmenAction.org is the one-stop shop for everything Watchmen Action. So if you want to know where we're going to be, what's going on, what the new trainings are and everything like that, what I need you to do is go to Watchmen, it's plural, WatchMen action.org. It's running right along the bottom of your screen, WatchmenAction.org. Our new calendar is up, so you can see all the speaking engagements and everything like that. If you want to book us to come and speak and teach, or you want to support the ministry, one-stop shop, just go to WatchmenAction.org. That's WatchmenAction.org. Your support allows Juliana, myself, and everybody else on the team to do more of the things that we need to do to equip the church, to engage the culture, so that you can tackle those core issues and win the day. WatchmenAction.org. Thank you.